day, ladies and gentlemen. Wesley here from the Mental Awareness Foundation and my assistant, Winnie. Thank you, Winnie. Now, you can go away now. Sorry, just had to introduce Winnie to the math family. Great way to do it. Ladies and gentlemen, Wesley here with Under the Radar. It is our video series where we take the time to interview people that are flying under the radar but are doing great work within the mental health sphere, I should say, and perhaps just maybe don't get the recognition that they should. And we are taking the time out to say thank you to these amazing people with these interviews. Today's guest is the beautiful, who you can see in front of me, Carly Jarvis. Carly is actually a long-term fan, first-time speaker on our math network. Just to give you a brief history, Carly's actually been involved with the Mental Awareness Foundation for 7 years. To give you an understanding of that, math is actually into its 11th year. So Carly has been involved with us for over, my math is correct, 5% of the time.
That works for me.
Could not be more grateful to have this beautiful human who genuinely wants to make a difference and give back to her community. So, ladies and gentlemen, Carly Jarvis.
Yay! Thank you so much for having me.
No, more than welcome. Now, just to let our crowd know, we do have a little mic technical difficulties, so we're trying to do our best. Oh, now, Winnie, no. Can you hear that?
Yeah, I can.
1 second.
Oh, she's got FOMO.
So, yeah, she's got a chicken. Sorry.
No.
As I said, there's no holding back here. We are live with this interview, so that was not scripted. Beautiful, Carly. Just from myself and our organisation, I just want to say thank you. Thank you for giving back to our community, the Mental Awareness Foundation, and to be quite fair, thank you for giving back to Brisbane, because your efforts have helped us with our events, and you've also helped fundraise, which we'll get into a moment. But yeah, before we start, thank you.
Oh, you're very welcome. I'm very honoured to be chatting to you. I was completely taken by surprise, and I'm very humbled. So thank you very much.
Well, we're a big fan. So what I thought we'd do, we'd go back to the day.
Yes.
And to be fair, like 7 years ago, you heard about Walk for Awareness. And I just thought we'd start there. Like, obviously, before you sort of got heavily involved with us, you must have heard about us.
Yes, I did. One of my long-term best friends, Shannon, was part of your team, and I know still gets involved a lot these days. But she was, I worked with Shannon in the past, and sort of two things were happening parallel. Like, I knew about her involvement with math, and at the same time, my family had started to experience some difficulties with my dad's health. Yep. And the paths the stars aligned, and things just sort of happened, and I was looking for a way to support my dad. Yep. And it just, through conversations with Shannon, she mentioned more about what MAPS represents and is involved in, and brought up the walk. Yep. And everything just kind of happened from there. So I wanted to do a fundraiser focusing on mental health. Yep. And so I did my first walk in 2014, I think it was 2014.
Yeah. Yep, nice.
And then at the end of that month, did a fundraiser, and have been attending as a volunteer and a walking participant every year since.
Now, just how was the experience of your first walk? Because, like, people that are watching this, maybe you have been, maybe you haven't. But what honestly, what did you feel?
I remember hearing, like, in that first one, attending and like hearing about the first walk that you had done when you had like maybe 100 of your mates, or not even that, yes. 50, something like that. And I remember feeling impressed then with the turnout 7 years ago, and how much it had gone in just 4 years.
Yes.
And to fast forward to now, seeing it just like continue to grow, it has never dipped down, and it's just been full steam ahead ever since. And what I remember, the feeling was like so much positivity. Like, it was impossible to frown or be sad. It was just the most amazing vibe, and you could be your most crazy, dorky, ridiculous, happy self, and there was no judgment, and it was just a beautiful feeling. And I love that about the day, and continue to, and just sing. And everyone is your friend. There are no strangers, and I love that.
And thank you for saying that. The no judgment, it's a big thing that we obviously encourage on the day and through life, to be that matter of fact. However, what you're talking about, because let's be honest, mental health issues and suicide can be dark topics. However, the day is obviously a representation of those issues, but it's also a celebration of life. And we're trying to bring the light onto those topics. And we do that by actually creating a fun event where we get outside and, yes, there's no judgment. People are there with a positive attitude, but an attitude of just showing love and support.
Mm-hmm.
And
Absolutely.
That's awesome that you felt that. And I'm assuming 7 years on, it's a similar feeling.
Oh, nothing has changed. And if anything, I feel like proud of you guys for how much, how the momentum hasn't changed, it hasn't wavered, and is getting stronger every year. And I'm so honored to be a part of it, and I hope that I always will be.
Yeah, and we do too. And actually, I might just touch, you mentioned word volunteer. And to be honest, volunteers are really important, particularly on the day, because they make everything run smoothly. How's your experience? Because obviously you're a walker, that's a part of it. But being a volunteer, how's that been?
So I always pick the same job because I love being on the registration desk at the start of the day when you're greeting everybody and see the diverse range of people from old and young, and love seeing little kids being involved with their families and sorry, microphone. I love being in that position because I'm a people person by nature, so I like being right amongst it from the start. And obviously being on the rego desk means that I can then walk straight after. So I'm kind of getting the best of both worlds.
Yeah, thank you. Now, obviously, from your first walk to your first event yourself, a trivia night, which I was super impressed with. Obviously, that was a month later. And to be quite fair, tied in with a birthday, I believe. So
I was trying to hinge every emotional aspect that I could to make that event successful. So I thought, if I have a fundraiser that is for my birthday, if people don't come, they come. and it 100% worked, but people were there for the right reasons as well. The trivia event was held in honor of my dad.
Yes.
So my dad has bipolar.
Yep.
And that year was a massive year for him because, his story is very long. The short version of it is that he's had his diagnosis. He got sick in his early 20s and spent many, many years without a diagnosis.
Yeah.
And feeling like all of the lows, the depression, and all of the highs that come with bipolar disorder without knowing what it was that he had. And fast forward, he grew up in Canada. He came over to Australia and met my mum here. And they went back to Canada together. They had me, and he was, around the time that I was born, was the sickest that he's ever been in his life. Which makes me feel awesome. But I didn't know this. Mum and dad made the decision from the word go to sort of, I guess, protect us a little bit from it as children. And my brother and I didn't find out until we were teenagers and started to learn about what bipolar disorder meant and mental health in general, because it really wasn't something talked about with children and young adults. And then he from the moment they came to Australia until 2014, he was fine. He was really good. And then at the beginning of that year, he started to have, I guess, an episode, you would call it, of with his manic depression. And that was the first time that I, as an adult and as his daughter, had seen him sick. And I felt so many emotions about it. I started to learn about his experience more. It's very hard for him to talk about and to be able to describe it. And I just remember thinking that I really wanted to help him. I saw my dad struggling, losing contact with people. He had to retire early from his job that he'd had for over 25 years. And so So that's when I started to think about the idea of doing some sort of a fundraiser, so that, and it was and the most important thing to keep in mind through this is that nobody knew. His friends didn't know that he kept this secret for nearly 60 years.
Yeah.
Like
Wow.
I mean, I'm not 60 years, like that's how old he is. Sorry,
Yeah,
I should say more, like half his life, 30 years,
yeah.
Since he knew. Um, and and I thought that because mental health is so much of a taboo subject and there's stigma attached to it, I really wanted to prove to him that he had support and
Yeah.
that he wasn't going to lose his friends and family for being honest about his experience. And so therefore the trivia night represented all of that. It was something that was fun to do, and there was, I think, 120 people attended from all different avenues of our lives. You guys had a team. You won the trivia from memory. Amazing. I know, right? Wasn't rigged at all. And it achieved everything that I wanted it to for him. For raising money, I think we got close to $4,000 or something between offline fundraising and on the day. And yeah, it was just amazing. And that was only the beginning of me learning about my dad's illness. And every year I walk for him.
Just a question, I guess, how was it for your dad, and not just obviously speak for him, but perhaps patients, when he did sort of come out with obviously his issue, like how was that for him? Was it a relief? Was it kind of like, yep, this is real, but I'm happy to get it out there because I just need to? What was your observation there?
I think that he was nervous at first
Yep.
about the unknown because, he spent his whole life hiding from it. He's lost friends from it. But then also he talks about, in time and getting older, starting to care a little bit less about what people think as well. So
Yeah.
in a good way, being more
Yeah, of
confident,
course.
and accepted, and finding that acceptance within himself as to this is who I am.
Yeah.
And I know that he was proud of me for doing that for him and very honored and touched by all of the nice things that came out of it that I don't think he was expecting.
Yeah.
And he hasn't lost a single friend. No, if anything, I think he has gained more out of respect for his experience and who he is.
Yeah. And obviously knowing what you know now, like how do you deal with that? Obviously it's going to have love, but is there certain scenarios where you obviously show support, no doubt, but what do you do as a child of a person that has bipolar?
Yeah, what it has taught me is you really have to have a intentional conscious awareness when you're talking and being around people that might be unwell, and it's given me a lot more patience for sure, and understanding, and you do have to, like, it's really easy to accidentally jump to quick judgment with different things, and becomes like a constant practice that you don't just, I don't think you necessarily become understanding overnight. It takes time and experience, and if anything, the more I talk to him about it, the easier it is. And he's quite open with me now, and I enjoy learning about what it has been like for him. And I feel like that has translated, like, having that relationship with my dad has meant that I've been able to carry that same awareness, I guess, of other people's situations, and sort of, I get really sort of upset when I hear people being called crazy. Like,
Yeah.
it sort of touches the nerve with me because people aren't crazy. There's normally a reason.
There. Yeah.
It's
I
just so
know.
easy. It's so easy to say, and I've been guilty of saying it too, like off the cuff, without sort of thinking. But the more that you talk about it, and and there's so many different avenues of mental health disorders.
Yeah.
But the more we learn about it, then that awareness will hopefully become just second nature, and the judgment will lessen.
I guess, and what have you learned from it yourself with your mental health? Like, are you taking any learning from that, obviously seeing what your dad has gone through, and evolved with it? Like, what are you doing for yourself?
Yeah, like there has been times over my adult life where, I might have been having low moments, and sort of, I think you sort of, you pick up on it that it's happening to you easier. And I think it has stopped me from, I don't know, sitting too deeply within something in a
Yeah.
sad space. I've been able to sort of, I guess, recognize when the mood is lowering and do something about it for
Yeah.
myself, and remove myself from whatever it is that isn't making me feel good, and switch to something that is.
Yeah.
But I don't think you ever sort of stop learning this kind of thing. Like, it's just a constant work in progress.
Yeah, well, as we mature in life,
Mm,
we
yes.
they say every 10 years we just simply change, right? And
Yep.
we change as a person. And it's neither here nor there. It's, if anything, it's a good thing. But we also need to learn what triggers us, and then what takes us away from those triggers. And thank you for bringing up. It's obviously learning strategies to, if something does start to overwhelm you, or anxiety or depression, or fill in the blank. It's like, well, what is it that I need to do? It's not going to snap out straight away, but what is it
Mm,
I need to do to bring myself out of this space?
yes, that's right. And everyone has different things that work for them as far as that goes. I mean, I tend to navigate away from technology when I'm starting to feel crappy about something, and I sort of switch off from, and not retreat in a bad way, just kind of like tune out the noise, I guess.
And just to share something that I've recently just done, I've just had, I'm going 47 days off alcohol.
Ah,
And yeah, and listen, trust me, I'm always going to probably have a beer and have a wine and whatnot. Pardon me, but actually having an extended break has been really refreshing. So if you're watching,
absolutely.
thank you for that advice. I really do think detaching from devices, or
Yeah.
things, what they look like, TV or mobile or
Hmm.
iPad. However, one thing that I've really embraced of late is just being taking some time off alcohol, and uh,
Yeah.
it's been,
Good for you.
yeah, no, and I've lost 4 kilos.
Oh, well, there you go. Happy bonus.
All your friends. Now, I thought, obviously over the 7 years, the walk's evolved, you've evolved, you've become a mum as well.
Yes. Yes.
Um, and I must say thank you, and impressive that even being a mum, you've still made it every year, even
Yes.
it's pregnant to not pregnant to, having a baby, a small child. So thank
Mm,
you. But last year, which was actually, I'm going to use the word special. It was
mm,
a special year. It was a year where obviously COVID restrictions were very restrictive, or prevalent. We had to take a risk ourselves in putting on an event, but however, we did that by going through the guidelines and doing the right protocols for government, which was successful. And obviously, just being the year that it was special from a couple of reasons. One, we got to have the event last year, even though you could say it would have been easy to just say, no, we'll postpone. Two, we actually had people walking all over the country,
yeah.
which is fantastic. It's been one of the silver linings from obviously this pandemic, that we've created a platform that people can walk anywhere. However, this event was really special because you had a pretty amazing conversation with a gentleman.
I did.
Um, yeah, it was a stranger to you, and
Complete. Yeah.
yeah, I'm actually getting tingles now because
I know.
I know the
I
conversation, but we wanted to get this out to our audience because it's just really touching.
Oh, absolutely. And this goes back to what I was saying before about why I love working on the registration desk, is because it's those like chance encounters with people that you may not get in other positions. And I was just lucky that I was right place, right time when this particular gentleman spoke to us. But it was he was at the event by himself and was coming to do his registration, and with no prompting at all, he just decided to share with me and a couple of the others that were on the desk about how this event saved his life. And just hearing those words was like straight to my heart. I couldn't, and it was kind of like this huge validation that years after years after years of doing these events, that like this is why we are here, because it made a difference to somebody's life. And he didn't obviously go into too much detail, but he said that a handful of years ago he was in a really dark place himself, and he was planning to take his life. And I can't remember whether it was that he lived in the area or something, but he got wind that the event was on and he was curious and he went down to take a look. And literally attending the event completely changed his perspective, and he found value in himself again. And he is still here, and he has been going to the event for himself ever since. And the fact that he didn't even feel the need to, he was by himself. He didn't have a group with him or anything, but that didn't matter for him. He needed to be there for him, and that was what was important. And he was there to share his own story. And I'm so honored that he opened up to me about that. And I couldn't wait. I could not. I think I was trying to find you and Shooter for like the whole day after that, just to share that moment, because I knew that what that would mean to you to hear that.
Yeah. And I'm actually crying because I know how powerful that is, and you know, this is the space that we're trying to create. And no matter where you are, that the walk is a safe space. It's a safe space where you can come and open up about your challenges and what's been happening in your world, and just once again that no judgment, but just knowing that, hey, we all have good days and bad days, and some are harder than the others. But it was
all it takes for somebody. All it takes for somebody in these dark places is just a moment to switch the course of their life. And I think this is the thing that sits so heavily with me, is that I know that moment for my dad was my mum. And it will make me cry talking about it, but my dad has started to write a bit of a memoir about his experiences and when he was really sick. And so that, I mean, he's writing it for my brother and I, but I'm secretly hoping that one day I will publish it for him somehow. That's my evil plan, but he needs to write more and get some editing done. But anyway, that's beside the point.
Yeah.
And I read, but there's just a moment in there where he talks about, he was pretty around the time that I was born. My mum was really worried about him, and she had a conversation with her doctor, her obstetrician, who just happened to know somebody that was a specialist with mental health, or starting, because you have to remember we're talking, it was the 80s.
Yeah.
So like there was not, we were definitely nowhere near as progressed as we are now, and mental health was not even a conversation.
No.
So the fact that she was able to find somebody that had an interest in it and was able to help him, and it was only about 6 months later they came to Australia for his health, that she saved his life. And it was just, it only takes one person, and you never know when you might be that person to somebody in a moment. And these people that are suffering can't save themselves. Like you just have to, just reading the words my dad has written about the things that go on in his head, like he wouldn't be here if it wasn't for my mum. And for that man that I met, he might have overheard a speech or some nice words from somebody passing when he walked to the walk that day, and it changed. He went from planning to take his life to planning to live it instead.
I just want to share a quote with you, because I posted it yesterday, actually. To make a difference in someone's life, you don't have to be brilliant, rich, beautiful, or perfect. You just have to care.
Oh, like 100%, 150%.
Yeah.
And that is, it's just so important. I can't, there aren't enough words to, like every moment and encounter that you have with people, whether you know them or not, you have, especially if you don't know them.
Yeah.
Is even more important than if you do, because you just don't know what trajectory that person's life is on.
Yeah, I think, and just from the conversation that we've had today, from your learnings with your dad and with this gentleman that shared, it comes back to empathy and vulnerability.
Oh, Huge.
Combining those two with people that doesn't matter if they're struggling or not, just showing those qualities in general will make this a better place, and that's what we're trying to achieve.
Absolutely. And I was just reading before, while I was waiting for the interview, I was just reading a bit from Dad's memoir draft, and he touches on the fact that about being a male with mental health issues, and how it is he even before, like, this is stuff that he was writing from how he felt in the 80s, in the 90s, about being a male with mental health issues. He felt embarrassed. He felt ashamed. He felt weak, and they were all the reasons that he kept it to himself. And I see. I mean, obviously, mental health doesn't choose favorites. It can affect anybody, but it is particularly difficult for males to be vulnerable and to ask for help. And I'm so proud of my dad for being able to survive himself ultimately over all this time, and for every male that has spoken up when they're not feeling so great. It takes a lot of courage, and us as females completely respect it and want more of it.
Yeah, and well, I know, just to take a tagline from the Living Boys that are doing great work, which is, it ain't weak to speak. So, and there is amen. And there's strength within opening up. And listen, I have to say, like, I just turned 40. I grew up. Yeah, thank you.
Bam.
I grew up in the 80s and the 90s, and I grew up through that era where men, if you did talk, you're seen as a wuss. Actually, we used other words.
Mm-hmm.
And sometimes, sometimes you do need to hear the word toughen up, but when it comes to really how you're feeling inside, it's not about that. It's actually about, like, hey, show the courage to speak up.
That's right.
And I genuinely feel it's the big ship is turning.
Yes.
And with these younger cats that are coming into this world, fortunately, that message is getting out. And of course, it's going to take time.
Mm-hmm.
But I think the narrative is changing, and
it is.
Just, if you're watching this, men, it is okay to speak. And if you know of someone that's struggling, please just, show that courage to just ask that question, are you okay?
Absolutely, for sure.
Now, guess what?
What?
The walk is going ahead this year.
Yay! Thank God.
So Sunday, put it in your calendar, Sunday the 10th of October 2021. Can you believe we are in the roaring 20s? Registrations are open, walkforawareness.org.au. Now, Carly Jarvis, will we see you there?
Absolutely, would not miss it for the world.
Thank you.
Registration desk is where you'll find me.
And you're gonna be at the front desk again?
It's my favorite place.
Now, one last question. If you could get a message out to thousands of people on a billboard or a text message that went out to the world, or perhaps, there was a big screen that all of a sudden just popped up to everyone's phone, and here you are, what would that message be to those people?
Oh, you've really built me up there. Oh my gosh, the message is definitely to take time to care. It's not.
Yep.
It may not come intentionally every situation, but everybody's got it in them, and you just have to find that split-second moment between reacting one way or the other. And I hope that everyone chooses the care path.
Yeah. I just want to add to that beautiful start of take time for yourself, take time for your mental health. It is definitely something that we reiterate here. So beautiful, Carly Jarvis. Thank you for talking to us for Mental Awareness Foundation. And once again, from our community to you, you are a rock star, and we praise you and we love you, and we can't wait to see your energy at the Walk for Awareness 2021. And, from here, we will say goodbye. And I really appreciate this interview.
Thank you so much for having me. And I am so pumped for the walk this year and to see you guys again in person.
We will see you there. Take care. Bye.